Hey, this is Debbie. Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about procrastination, some creative ways that we avoid doing what we should be doing, and how to move past procrastination when we find ourselves doing it. So everybody procrastinates from time to time. It's almost human nature. And sometimes it's just a bad habit. Sometimes it becomes a chronic habit. But most of the time people procrastinate out of fear. Their fear of failure, fear of success. Sometimes people procrastinate because they're afraid of being judged, or they feel like this project they're in is a little over their head. And sometimes people procrastinate just because they're feeling stressed. And they're just like, I have too much on my plate today and I can't deal with this. So they put something off because they're just feeling stressed, and it's actually a stress relief to put off a project. But we come up with creative ways to avoid doing what we should be doing. And the first way that I see most often is people just saying, I just don't feel like it. And that's probably the most honest form of procrastination, is just saying, I don't feel like working on that today. I don't feel like giving it my energy. I don't feel like giving it my time. I just don't feel like it. So that's actually a form of procrastination. It's just saying, I just don't feel like it. And then you have the polar opposite of that, which is self-deception. That's where we tell ourselves little lies. We tell ourselves, if I just get some of these smaller, insignificant tasks out of the way, then I will have more time for this big task that's going to take more of my time and more of my energy and more of my focus. And by doing the smaller tasks first, we actually will get a little hit of dopamine every time we check something off of our to-do list. We get that little hit of dopamine. It makes us feel good that we check something off of our to-do list. But at the end of the day, you're really not going to feel any better, because that important thing, the thing that you should have really been doing, didn't get done or didn't get started. So, we always seem to gravitate towards what is easier, what is faster, what is more fun, versus the hard stuff. That just kind of seems like common sense and maybe human nature. Or maybe that's just our programming. Maybe we're just lazy and want to avoid hard work. I don't know, but it's just an interesting way to look at that. So we deceive ourselves and we tell ourselves little lies. And then you have people that are the adrenaline junkies. They feel like they work better under pressure, that they can get more done and are more focused when they're under pressure. And in reality, they're just causing themselves more stress. And more stress is never good, even if it's for a short period of time where you're just trying to pound something out. That additional stress is not good. And then your quality of work is not going to be as good as if you had spent more time on it over several days or several weeks, as to just pumping it out in a short period of time as the deadline approaches. So that's your adrenaline junkie. Then you've got the non-decision maker. You've got the person who avoids making a decision, or maybe avoids making a decision by a deadline, because somehow they feel they're afraid, number one, to make a decision because they're afraid they're going to make the wrong decision. But secondly, they kind of feel like if they don't make a decision, it absolves them of the responsibility of having to make that decision. And then you have the perfectionist. The perfectionist is somebody that can't start a project or work on a plan until they have all the pieces. So if they're waiting for pieces of information from different departments or different people, they won't get started until they have everything, instead of working on the parts that they can and then filling in the blanks with the missing pieces as they come in. So they kind of procrastinate by putting it all off until they have all the missing pieces. The perfectionist is also somebody who will rewrite a plan or project and rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it because they never feel that it's good enough. So they might ask for extensions for deadlines, and they just avoid completing it just because they don't ever feel like it's good enough. So that's a perfectionist, and that's another form of procrastination. And then you have the person that's overwhelmed. They have so much to do. They haven't set any priorities. So, they just feel completely overwhelmed. So they don't know what to grab for first. So they don't grab for anything. They don't ever get started because they're just overwhelmed. So those are some of the more creative and more common forms of procrastination. I'm sure you could probably come up with many more. But there's also high cost of procrastination. We cause ourselves undue stress from procrastination and might suffer stress-related health issues. It can also impact our relationships, our business relationships. We might be seen, if we're working as a team or on a team, as somebody that's not really reliable. If you're somebody who procrastinates a lot, but then you end up taking work home at night or work late at night, or take work home or work over the weekends, then that could impact, especially if you do it often, then that's going to impact your personal relationships, your relationship with your spouse, with your kids, and your friends. If you're somebody who's always working because they're always procrastinating and putting things off and not getting it done during normal business hours. So how can you stop procrastinating and start working on projects, especially when it's something that you don't even really want to do in the first place? So the first one is just becoming aware that you are procrastinating. And, did you fall into any one of those categories that I mentioned before? The one that's self-deception, or the adrenaline junkie, or the non-decision maker. Do you see yourself in any of those? So if you do recognize they kind of sound like you, or I do that sometimes, then just becoming aware of the stories that you tell ourselves, becoming aware of how you creatively avoid doing the things that you need to do, is step number one, and probably the most important step. Step number two is forgiving yourself. So if you're sitting here watching this video right now and going, I am avoiding doing work because I am watching YouTube videos. So you're avoiding doing something because you went down that rabbit hole of social media or YouTube, then you just need to recognize that, forgive yourself, don't beat yourself up over it, and just move on, go back to work. Look at why the project or task that you're avoiding is important. If you're a business owner and you've got to work on a project or task, how is that going to benefit your business? Maybe you'll just be glad to have it done and off of your plate. So that's motivation to get it done so you can just not have to deal with it anymore. If you're an employee and you've been assigned a project or task, or are a part of a team that's working on this project or task, then why is this project or task important to the company? And reframe it and think, wow, they've entrusted me with this important project or task, or I am a part of this important project or team, and not everybody was asked to be on this project or team. So reframe it and think of it, instead of one more thing you have to do, think of it as an opportunity to make yourself look better and stand out. Take small steps. Depending on your project, when is the deadline? Is the deadline 1 week, 3 weeks, 2 months? And then kind of come up with a timeline so that you don't end up doing everything towards the end of the timeline, so that you can start working on it daily, weekly, along that time frame. So you keep moving that project forward with baby steps, nothing overwhelming, where you don't have to work on it for hours and hours a day. You might work on it for 30 minutes, an hour a day, or maybe 15 minutes, but you're taking those small steps that are going to help keep moving that project forward. And then can you delegate? Were you assigned to do this project by yourself? Or are you part of a team? And can you delegate any of those steps to somebody else? Can you delegate some of those smaller tasks and give somebody else a deadline to look up that information and get it back to you to help you move forward on that project or task, and take a little bit of it off of your plate? So see if you can delegate any of it. And then reward yourself. If this is a big project that's going to take you weeks or even a month or more to complete this project, then give yourself a reward at the end when it's done. Give yourself something to look forward to when you have completed it, be it, a weekend away, dinner at a really fancy, expensive restaurant that you love, that you only go to once or twice a year because it's so expensive. Take an extra day off. Just treat yourself to something that you normally wouldn't do, but because you've dedicated yourself to completing this project on time or before its deadline, you're going to reward yourself somehow. If you find yourself struggling to keep forward progress on a project, especially if your time frame is, 2 or 3 weeks, a month or more out, we have a tendency to procrastinate and then, work on it harder towards the end. So to keep yourself on track, find yourself an accountability partner, a friend, a colleague, a mentor, somebody that can check in with you every day or every other day just to see how you're doing and make sure you're still making forward progress and support you, because you don't want this accountability partner to call you on day 1 and you didn't do anything, and then they call you again on day 2 and you're like, I didn't do anything again. So you don't want to keep that conversation going. So that's what the accountability partner is for, is they're like, oh, so-and-so is going to call me today. I want to tell them I did something and I want to keep working on it. So that's going to encourage you to keep moving forward on your project. And this one, I thought this was not my idea. I thought this one was very ingenious though. So pick an organization that you do not support, an organization that you do not like, be it a political organization or any organization that you don't like or support, and write out a check to them for a sizable sum, something that's going to be a little painful. Put that check in an envelope, address it, put a stamp on it, and hand it to somebody who you trust will mail it if you don't complete your project by your deadline. So you've got somebody that you're going to say, if you don't hear from me by 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever on this date that I have completed this project, I want you to mail this check. Because that's a huge motivator, because you don't want to give your hard-earned dollars to someplace you don't support. So I just thought that was very, like I said, I didn't come up with that one, but I just think it's really genius. And then the next thing is starting the project. So when you go to start this project, I want you to commit to, again, a baby step. So a small amount of time. So your first day, schedule 5, 10, 15 minutes to work on this project. Not a big commitment of your time, just to get you started. And you're probably going to find out that you spent more than your 5, 10, or 15 minutes. You probably spent 30 minutes or maybe even an hour working on this project. Because sometimes just getting started is the hardest part, just making yourself take that first step. So by only committing to a small amount of time, it's easier for you to take that first step. And then, like I said, you'll probably look at the clock and find out, I've been working on this 30 minutes, or I've been working on this project for an hour. But just say, I'm just going to work on it for 5 or 10 minutes today just to get it started. So anyway, those are some creative ways that we avoid doing the things that we need to do, and some creative ideas to kind of help you move past it and keep moving forward. So like I said, I'm sure you probably have your own creative ways of avoiding and procrastinating. I hope you will share them below in the comment section. So let us know some creative ways that you procrastinate and you avoid doing the things that you need to do, and also some of the ways that you overcome your own procrastination, because we can all benefit from sharing with each other, things that we do and how we move past it. So I hope this has been helpful. I will see you in the next video. Again, please share below and please subscribe. I would love to have you subscribe to my new channel. Thanks so much. I hope you have a fantastic day.